on the stock, not knowing anything about stock at 19 years old. You know how much money 46 years later that stock would be worth today? $1.5 billion. Ooh. So I wish I was this urban back when I was 19 years old. But let me just say to all of us, make sure we educate ourselves about equity, about stock.
LeBron's greatness and the longevity of LeBron.
Well, I think that's the key, right? He's been doing it since 18 years old.
The unthinkable has just happened. A scandal is erupting inside the most famous franchise in basketball. This isn't about a trade demand or a loss on the court. This is about betrayal at the highest level. Magic Johnson, the symbol of Laker glory, the man whose smile built an empire, has reportedly become a whistleblower. He has gone behind closed doors to owner Jeanie Buss, armed not with an opinion, but with a file, a secret dossier of evidence. And its target? The king himself, LeBron James. What could possibly be in that folder? What proof could a legend gather that would make him turn on another? This is the story of a mentor becoming a prosecutor, a private meeting that shattered all trust, and the moment a dynasty's future was put on trial. To understand the magnitude of this betrayal, you have to rewind the tape. For years, Magic Johnson and LeBron James existed in a state of mutually beneficial celebration. Magic, the franchise legend, would publicly praise LeBron's greatness, his business acumen, his leadership. LeBron, in turn, would speak of Magic's legacy with reverence, calling him a pioneer and a role model. It was the perfect public relationship between past and present royalty. But beneath the surface of those smiling photo ops and complimentary soundbites, a slow-burning resentment was building within Magic Johnson. It wasn't just about basketball philosophy anymore. It became something far more personal, a feeling of erasure. The first cracks appeared in small, dismissive ways. Comments from LeBron's inner circle that subtly downplayed the competition of the 80s. Analytical segments on television that used modern stats to argue that today's stars would dominate yesterday's legends. Magic, a fiercely proud man who believes his era defined basketball's global appeal, took this not as debate, but as disrespect. But the true turning point was operational. Magic, despite his official departure, still sees the Lakers as his franchise in a spiritual sense. He maintains deep relationships with staffers, trainers, and executives who have been there for decades. And through this network, he began to hear disturbing reports. Whispers about how decisions were really made. Stories of scouts' recommendations being overruled. Rumors of coaching strategies being dictated not from the head coach's office, but through back channels that traced back to LeBron's camp. At first, Magic brought these concerns to Jeanie Buss in private, casual conversations. He expressed worry that the Lakers' culture, a culture of family, of legacy, of Lakers exceptionalism, was being replaced by something more corporate, more transactional. Jeanie, according to sources, listened but urged patience. She was managing a delicate balance. But from Magic's perspective, nothing changed. In fact, it got worse. The influence of Clutch Sports, LeBron's agency, seemed to grow only stronger. More clients appeared on the roster. Contract extensions seemed to materialize with surprising speed for certain players. Magic watched as people he considered Lakers lifers were gradually sidelined or pushed out, replaced by individuals whose primary loyalty seemed to lie with LeBron's ecosystem, not with the Lakers' shield. This is when Magic Johnson, he began to use his unparalleled network, not just in basketball, but in Los Angeles business, entertainment, and finance, to dig deeper. He had lunches, took meetings, made calls. He wasn't just gathering gossip, he was seeking documentation, patterns, financial paper trails. He believed Jeanie Buss was being insulated from the truth, perhaps even manipulated by the very star she was trying to placate. So he decided to become her source of truth. He compiled everything: emails, text message screenshots from disillusioned former employees, comparative contract analyses, timelines of personnel decisions.
What do you think about LeBron James and his ability to win more championships?
LeBron James will definitely win more championships. LeBron James is special. Why? Because he makes his teammates better. And LeBron James once he learned how to close the games, like as he did with Oklahoma City.
Don't get it twisted. I love LeBron, but no. I love him, but when Michael Jordan took off with that tongue out.
The meeting was arranged with the secrecy of a state-level diplomatic negotiation. It did not take place at the Lakers' glittering El Segundo headquarters, where security cameras and curious employees could note their comings and goings. Instead, it was held at a... She understood the topic would be serious, but she was unprepared for the clinical, prosecutorial atmosphere that awaited her. Magic Johnson was already there, and the familiar, ebullient personality was absent. In its place was a grim, focused demeanor. On a sleek glass table sat a simple, thick folder. No smile, no small talk. He cut directly to the point. "Jeanie," he is reported to have begun, "what I'm about to show you, I'm showing you because I love this franchise and I love you like family. This isn't about being right. This is about you knowing what's really happening inside your own house." He opened the folder. What followed, according to individuals with knowledge of the discussion, was a methodical 2-hour presentation that systematically deconstructed the narrative of LeBron James as a benevolent leader and reconstructed it as the head of a competing corporate entity embedded within the Lakers. The first section dealt with influence over basketball operations. Magic presented a series of timelines. One charted the hiring of assistant coaches and training staff, drawing clear lines between new hires and the representation or personal ties to LeBron's inner circle. Another timeline mapped player acquisitions and contract extensions, highlighting a statistically significant pattern where Clutch Sports clients received their deals with notable speed and, in Magic's analysis, at a premium above market value compared to their on-court production. He juxtaposed this with internal scouting reports on alternative, non-Clutch players the basketball operations staff had reportedly recommended, who were passed over. The point was stark. The Lakers roster was being shaped, at least in part, by an agency's agenda, not solely by the pursuit of the best basketball team. The second part of the dossier was more insidious, focusing on culture and chain of command. Magic allegedly presented communications, some from former staffers no longer with the team, that depicted a climate of fear and parallel governance. There were summaries of coaching staff meetings where schemes were agreed upon, only to be altered at the last minute after feedback from unofficial channels. There were accounts of veteran players, not represented by Clutch, feeling marginalized or seeing their roles diminished without clear basketball justification from the coaching staff, but with whispers pointing to external preferences. This second head coach was being subtly but persistently undermined, creating a paralysis where people were afraid to make decisions without tacit approval from the superstar's camp. But the final part of the presentation was the most devastating because it was personal and prophetic. Magic, using his business connections, had gathered intelligence on LeBron James's long-term planning. He presented outlines of LeBron's post-career business empire, media companies, production ventures, investment funds, all bearing the LeBron James brand and structurally independent of the Lakers. For Magic, this was the ultimate proof. This wasn't a player seeking to build a legacy within the Lakers' lineage, to become the next Jerry West or Magic himself. This was a mogul using the Lakers' global platform as a temporary stage to amplify his own separate empire. He was not an heir to the throne, he was a brilliant conqueror leasing the castle. For Jeanie Buss, whose entire life has been about stewarding her family's legacy, this revelation struck at her deepest fear, that the Lakers were being used as a prop, not cherished as an institution. When Magic finished, the room was silent. The folder lay between them, a physical manifestation of shattered trust. Jeanie Buss, according to sources, was pale and visibly shaken. She didn't refute the information. She simply asked, "Why are you showing me this?" Magic's reported reply was simple, "Because someone had to, and you're the only one who can do something about it." He had not given her a choice. He had given her a burden. The meeting ended without resolution, but with a new, terrifying reality. The partnership was over. A Cold War had begun.
But sometimes, as a man, you have to make decisions based on your well-being, right? And I made that decision based on me. my own happiness. And so I could have done it a different way. Yes, he's right, but I did it my way. And that doesn't take anything away from our relationship or how I feel about LeBron. But sometimes as a man or a woman, you got to make decisions based on your own happiness. And sometimes you just... Once I talked to LeBron about coming to the Lakers, I felt good about the meeting. I didn't know for sure he was going to commit to the Lakers, but I felt good about it because everything that he wanted, I thought we could deliver.
The secret held for less than 72 hours. In the high-stakes, interconnected world of Los Angeles power, a tremor of that magnitude was impossible to contain. But the leaks did not reveal the dossier's contents. Instead, they were tactical weapons fired from both sides, designed to shape the narrative before the full truth could ever emerge. The first salvo came from sources firmly aligned with the Lakers family old guard. Ominous, carefully phrased reports surfaced in select media outlets. They spoke of a devastating, evidence-based presentation that had fundamentally altered the relationship between ownership and its superstar. Words like forensic, shadow operations, and breach of trust were seeded into the ecosystem. The goal was clear: to establish Magic Johnson not as a bitter critic, but as a credible whistleblower, a guardian acting to save the franchise. They painted the situation as grave and institutional, not personal. This leak was a masterstroke of perception management. It validated the seriousness of the allegations without exposing a single fact that could be legally contested or publicly denied in detail. The counter-leak from LeBron James' camp was swift, brutal, and deeply personal. Their narrative, delivered through equally influential channels, attacked the messenger with surgical precision. Stories emerged framing Magic Johnson as a powerless and embittered former executive, still seething years prior. This leak cleverly reframed the entire scandal as an act of vengeance by a man desperate to reclaim relevance, using his personal relationship with the owner to sabotage the star who now occupied his spotlight. It was a character assassination disguised as context. By reminding the world of Magic's own chaotic exit from the front office, they subtly questioned his stability and motives, deflecting attention away from the contents of the dossier and onto the alleged madness of its compiler. The impact of this dueling propaganda war was immediate and corrosive. Inside the Lakers' headquarters, a climate of paranoia descended. The front office, led by General Manager Rob Pelinka, found itself in an impossible position. Pelinka, who navigated the delicate balance between the Buss family and the LeBron ecosystem, was now viewed with suspicion by both sides. His every move was scrutinized. Was he acting in the best interest of the Lakers, or was he a de facto agent of Clutch? Meetings were tense, hushed affairs. Trust between colleagues evaporated, replaced by a silent calculus of loyalty. Staffers wondered if their casual conversations were being noted, if their past actions were being re-examined through the new, sinister lens provided by the leaks. The paralysis spread to the basketball operations. Free agency meetings were fraught. The franchise's pitch to potential players now had to account for an invisible civil war. Would a player be walking into a unified championship quest, or a toxic locker room where the shadow of the front office conflict loomed over every practice? The Lakers' greatest asset, their prestige and legacy, was suddenly tarnished by the perception of instability. The scandal was no longer a private disagreement, it was an operational crisis, freezing the machinery of the franchise at the most crucial time of the year. The kingdom was not just divided, it was grinding to a halt, while its two most powerful figures waged war through headlines and whispers.
Ant already said he don't want it.
I know.
Yeah, Ant said he ain't trying to deal with that. And, I mean, Channing Frye said it the other day, too, like, I mean, it's unfortunate, but, like, I don't know, why do you want to be the face of a league when all the people that, you know, that cover our game and talk about our game on a day-to-day basis on everybody? I mean, that responsibility, it's just weird. It's weird energy from the people that,
Well, I feel sorry for LeBron to put up this type of season, these type of numbers, and then we're probably not going to be even in the play-in game. This was a wasted season for him, and we can't waste seasons, Greeny, with.
While the Lakers organization convulsed with leaked narratives and internal panic, the central figure in the entire drama, LeBron James, became a study in absolute, unnerving stillness. In the face of allegations that struck at the core of his leadership and integrity, he offered no defense. He issued no denial. He made no statement. His social media channels, usually a vibrant mix of business, family, and motivational messaging, continued as if nothing of consequence was happening. There were posts about his foundation's work, clips from his production company, and glimpses of off-season training. The content was deliberately, brilliantly mundane. It was the digital equivalent of a man calmly reading a newspaper while sirens wail outside his window. This was not avoidance. This was a masterclass in high-stakes power dynamics. LeBron understood that in the court of public opinion, and more importantly, in the real politic of the NBA, a response would legitimize the fight. By refusing to engage with Magic's evidence or the ensuing media frenzy, he effectively declared the entire scandal beneath his notice. He framed it as petty noise, the clanging of irrelevant cymbals, while he remained focused on the work, a word he and his ecosystem began to emphasize with almost religious repetition. This silent strategy accomplished several devastating things at once. First, it made the Lakers' ownership look weak and reactive. While Jeanie Buss was reportedly reeling from a secret dossier and her franchise was leaking like a sieve, LeBron projected an image of unshakable sovereign calm. He was the rock. The Lakers were the chaos swirling around it. This inverted the intended power dynamic of Magic's intervention. Instead of LeBron being put on the defensive, the franchise itself appeared to be in desperate, dysfunctional turmoil. Second, his silence was a passive-aggressive referendum on his future. By not uttering a single word of commitment to the Lakers, he allowed the specter of his departure to become a real, tangible threat that hung over the entire organization. Every quiet day amplified the question, would he even want to stay? This forced Jeanie Buss and the front office into a position of uncertainty they could not control. They couldn't plan for a future with him because he wouldn't confirm it. They couldn't plan for a future without him because that was organizational suicide. They were trapped in a present defined by his non-communication. Finally, and most crucially, his silence opened the door for other teams. General managers across the league, masters at reading subtext, saw the non-denials and the unrest. They began the delicate process of exploratory contact. These weren't trade calls. That would be a breach of protocol. They were temperature checks, conversations about hypothetical availability. The very fact these conversations were happening and that the Lakers weren't immediately and angrily shutting them down sent a shockwave through the league. It signaled that the unthinkable was now thinkable. LeBron James, by saying nothing, had made himself passively available. He hadn't demanded a trade, he had simply allowed the world to believe he might be open to one. This placed his value entirely in his own hands and made the Lakers, should they decide to move him, reactive participants in a market he was subtly creating. His silence wasn't a shield, it was a vacuum, and into that vacuum rushed the speculation, the fear, and the leverage that now belonged solely to him.
And I don't know the whole idea that you sell a team to somebody and you expect to still have a job there or work there or collect money.
LeBron James is officially now washed. We can finally say it because it's being said. I, to be fair, I'm the driver and leader of this caravan. It's over. Even
Jeanie Buss was now cornered. Magic Johnson had handed her a lit fuse. LeBron James had responded by building a silent, impenetrable wall. The pressure from both sides, the past and the present, threatened to collapse the franchise's future. She could not remain paralyzed. In a move that revealed her own desperation and resolve, she authorized a counter-leak of her own, one that changed the game from a battle of whispers to a public ultimatum. This new wave of reporting, sourced directly from ownership circles, was stark and simple. It framed the situation not as a scandal to be investigated, but as a partnership to be evaluated. Reports stated that the Lakers, citing a need for clarity and a unified direction, were pausing all extension talks with LeBron James and would be conducting a comprehensive assessment of the roster's construction and timeline. In corporate speak, it was a declaration of independence. The subtext was a direct challenge to LeBron's power. We are stepping back. We are reassessing your value to us on our terms. It was the owner's gambit, a call to the king's silent bluff. She was signaling that she was willing to stare into the abyss of a post-LeBron era to call his presumed unwillingness to leave. The reaction was instantaneous and volcanic, and it split the Lakers' global fan base into two warring, irreconcilable nations. One nation, rallying behind the hashtag #StandWithJeanie, saw the owner's move as an act of courageous sovereignty. These were often lifelong fans, steeped in the history of West, Chamberlain, Magic, Kareem, and Kobe. To them, the Lakers were an institution that transcended any player. They saw Magic Johnson as a heroic truth-teller, and LeBron's silent operation as proof of a corrosive corporate takeover. Their comments flooded forums. The Lakers existed before LeBron and will exist after him. No one is bigger than the logo. Finally, an owner with a backbone. Take back our team. They were willing to endure years of losing if it meant reclaiming what they saw as the franchise's soul from a mercenary empire. The other nation, operating under banners like #LeBronIsTheLakers, viewed Jeanie Buss's move as the pinnacle of foolish, prideful betrayal. This faction, often younger and global, saw LeBron as the sole reason for the Lakers' modern relevance and their 2020 championship. They framed Magic as a jealous, scheming old legend, trying to burn down the house because he no longer had the keys. Their outrage was palpable. She's going to trade the guy who hung banner 17 for her? After Kobe died, LeBron saved this franchise. Jeanie would rather be the queen of a 30-win lottery team than share the stage with a king. They saw the potential departure not as a reclamation, but as an unforgivable act of sabotage that would doom the franchise to a decade of irrelevance. The Civil War raged across every platform. It turned friends against each other in group chats. It made Lakers discussion spaces toxic wastelands of absolutism. There was no middle ground. You were either loyal to the institution of the past or the superstar of the present. This schism, perhaps more than any potential trade, represented the most lasting damage of the scandal. Magic's dossier hadn't just divided a front office, it had successfully fractured the very idea of what it meant to be a Los Angeles Lakers fan. The shared identity was gone, replaced by a bitter, fundamentalist tribalism. The kingdom was at war with itself, and the battle lines were drawn in the comments section.
No matter what.
How true is it that your dad was telling Magic that, he wanted you and Magic to one day run the team, all the while telling Jim, your brother, he wanted you and Jim to run the team?
Magic wanted to learn everything about business from my dad. So he mentored Magic, and that relationship in the 80s was...
We now arrive at the precipice. The scandal has erupted, the evidence has been presented, the war has been declared, and the fans have chosen their tribes. Yet there is no resolution. There is only a heavy, costly, and paralyzing stalemate. Magic Johnson made his case, but he cannot force an outcome. LeBron James maintains his silence, but he cannot unring the bell of distrust. Jeanie Buss made her power play, but she cannot uninvent the fissure that now runs through the heart of her franchise. The Lakers organization exists in a state of operational purgatory. The front office is trying to conduct business, evaluating draft prospects, placing routine calls, but every move is viewed through the distorting lens of the Civil War. Is a draft pick a basketball decision or a signal about life after LeBron? Is a phone call about a role player a genuine roster move or just busy work to project normalcy? The paralysis is not total, but it is profound. The franchise's vision for the future, which once clearly orbited the son of LeBron James, has been knocked out of alignment. They are drifting. For LeBron, the stalemate is a double-edged sword. His silence has preserved his power and maintained his options, but it has also cemented the perception among a significant portion of the fan base and the old guard establishment that he is indeed the calculating CEO his accusers allege. He has won the leverage battle, but may be losing the legacy war. His final chapter, which he meticulously storyboarded as a triumphant Lakers sunset with his son, is now shadowed by a narrative of conflict, suspicion, and a cold business divorce. The story is no longer solely about his greatness. It is forever intertwined with a messy, public schism. For Magic Johnson, the outcome is already a Pyrrhic victory. He achieved his goal of shocking Jeanie Buss into awareness, but at the cost of his reputation as the joyous, unifying face of the franchise. He is now seen by millions as a schemer, a saboteur. He has permanently alienated the LeBron faction of the fan base and likely burned his relationship with the superstar forever. He acted to save the Lakers as he sees it, but in doing so, he may have sacrificed his own place within its modern spirit. And for Jeanie Buss, the owner, the stalemate is the worst possible outcome. She has not reclaimed control. She has exposed her lack of it. She is now a ruler presiding over a divided kingdom, mistrusted by one side for being too weak and by the other for being too bold. The dossier she authorized has no clear end. Does she trade a still productive LeBron and face a decade of wrath from half her fans? Does she reconcile with him and forever alienate Magic and the legacy purists? There is cost. The dossier did not provide a solution. It only illuminated the depth of the problem. So what was really proven? Magic Johnson proved that legacy is not just about statues and championships, but about control, the control of a narrative, the control of a culture's soul. He proved that when a superstar's influence grows so vast that it threatens to become the institution itself, the ghosts of the past will rise to fight for what they built. LeBron James proved that in the modern era, the ultimate power is not in winning arguments, but in refusing to have them. That leverage lies in the quiet threat of departure, in the ability to make an entire billion-dollar organization hold its breath, waiting for a word that may never come. But the most tragic proof is this, that the pursuit of legacy, when it becomes a battle for ownership of history, can destroy the very thing you're fighting for. The Lakers are no longer a basketball team. They are a cautionary tale. The scandal didn't crown a winner. It only revealed that in a war between a king and his kingdom's history, everyone loses. The final haunting question is this: can a legacy built in silence survive the noise of betrayal? Or has the trust been broken so completely that the only thing left to save is the business and the legend is forever lost? If you want to follow every agonizing twist in this unprecedented NBA saga, subscribe now. The fallout is just beginning.